Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the Free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed, but that's not why I'm here today. This is a Saving Savvy episode, and it actually was prompted by a troll. So if you do any kind of YouTube work, there's always going to be people out there that leave wonderful comments that are helpful and help you grow, or maybe give you a nice little compliment that makes you want to do more of these videos, and there's always going to be trolls, people that just make stupid, asinine comments. However, I had a troll make a really smart comment, so I wanted to share it with you and how it stimulates this video. So that troll said about me, he is really an odd man. And I thought about that for a while, and I thought, you know what? He's right. I am odd. I am not typical. I'm not like a sheeple, garden variety person. I am my own unique person, and I have used that uniqueness to benefit myself through the years. And so I'm going to use that uniqueness today to try to drive home a point. And that point is, well, you'll have to wait to the end of the video. But it's really about a review because, I think sometimes we all feel that if we don't do a review or if we don't read 1,000 reviews on a camera, then we're kind of, as my mother would say, going up a creek without a paddle. So we don't want you to do that. So today's review is going to be on a much maligned camera. This is the Canon 6D Mark II. Actually, it's a very nice camera. People like using it, but they tell people not to buy it. And let's go through a super quick review, and then let's look at this review in a little more detail. So what are the pros of this camera? What makes it unique? Well, basically, it has this wonderful articulating screen that you can use in all different sorts of ways. It's a touchscreen, and it's well-implemented touchscreen. It has dual pixel autofocusing, which is a Canon exclusive. So I can use it for video, or I can just take a picture and touch different things and have it focus on those areas very quickly and efficiently. What are some areas that are okay? Well, it takes great pictures and it has pretty good video. It's not 4K. It's not probably the best 1080p video, but it's absolutely fine for most of our use, including if we were using this for a YouTube channel or for some other kind of blog or for personal video or whatever. It's perfectly fine for that. Where do people criticize this camera? Well, they say, a lot of things, but they say two main things. They say that the dynamic range isn't as good as its peers, for instance, from Nikon or from Sony. And they also criticize it, and this is an entry-level camera, for having just one card slot. So I was at the auto dealer today when I thought about doing this goofy video, and I was actually doing some research. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I actually was writing some stuff down because I was sitting around waiting for my car to get fixed. And what I really wanted to know is, how often do SD cards fail? There's not a lot of data out there, but there certainly is some. And the data that I found suggests that SD cards fail extremely rarely. In fact, if you buy a brand name card like a SanDisk card, it's often 1 million to 2 million mean times between failures, MTBF. That's like, a couple hundred years between it fails? So how do people have cards that fail? Well, they probably fail for a number of reasons. Maybe they're not buying a brand name card, or maybe they're buying a card that they think is brand name, but it's a counterfeit card. Maybe they're running that card to the absolute top all the time and completely filling it up, which is never a good idea with any kind of solid state memory. Leave a little headroom in that card. Maybe they're not formatting in between, or maybe they're abusing the cards by leaving it in too warm of an environment or too cold of an environment. Maybe they're taking the card out while it's writing to it, or doing magnetic fields, or whatever they could be doing to it. They could be shortening the life of these cards. Because when you hear these stories about people that tell you about these failures, they're never giving you all the data. And these are not controlled studies. These are anecdotal results. My card failed when blah, blah, blah happened. Well, that means probably a lot less than we think. Now, I'm not saying that, you please don't go below and say, oh, you idiot, you are odd. Well, I am odd. But, I had a card fail and blah, blah, blah. I mean, certainly if you feel like you need to have 2 card slots or 12 card slots, that's great. But that's not the part that you need to worry about with your camera. It's much more likely that you're going to drop the thing, or it's going to fall into the toilet, or someone's going to steal it, than it is that you're going to have a card failure. So think about that for a little bit. But of course, play it safe. All right, so basically that's the review of this camera. Well, what else can I say about reviews in general and reviews of this camera? Well, let me show you some magazines. These are just some that we had around the house. Psychology Today, we have the psychiatric family here. Here's another one. Oh, look at it very carefully. Please look at that carefully. All right. Time magazine. Look at that very carefully. You got that locked in? Okay. This is the program guide for our park district. I'm sorry, it's what we had. Look at that very carefully. All right. Now, please tell me the actual model of those cameras that took those 3 pictures. You can't? Well, how about the brand of those cameras that took those 3 pictures? You can't? Can you tell me if it's a mirrorless camera or a DSLR? No? Can you tell me if it was APS full frame or APS-C or even maybe Micro Four Thirds? No? You really can't tell any of that stuff on a magazine cover. Or you couldn't really in a portrait unless you were just neurotic and staring at little tiny things. But the majority of people could not tell. Let me show you something else. Where's another camera here? We got cameras today I've got cameras all over my study. So here's another camera. And we're going to make it look a little bit better by taking its lens cover off, because it always looks better that way. This is a camera that I'm sure you probably know of. This is the Canon 5D Mark III. Okay? Famous camera. This camera is probably more used by professional photographers than any other camera. If you've gone to a wedding, the photographer, it's a good chance they were using, I know the 5D Mark IV is out now, but for a long time they were using the 5D Mark III and probably still 3, and probably still many people are doing that. If you ever see people taking pictures at some sort of news conference, maybe even the president's there or something, the journalists are using, many of them you'll see they're using 5D Mark IIIs, right? If you go to a sporting event, the people on the sidelines are using a variety of cameras, but you probably are certainly going to see 5D Mark III cameras, right? These are incredibly versatile cameras. Look in any newspaper, you'll probably see photos from a 5D Mark III. Look in any magazine, you're probably going to see pictures from a 5D Mark III. Look at someone's table where they have their wedding picture. There's a good enough bet that it's going to be from a 5D Mark III. Pretty impressive, right? But yet most people will tell you, if you had a choice, go with the 6D Mark II. So this incredibly, I know it came out in 2012, but still completely valid, right? This incredibly awesome camera here, this camera, despite all the complaints of having crappy dynamic range, he has dynamic range at least as good as the 5D Mark III, probably a little bit better, probably better color depth, probably better low ISO performance in this camera. So that's kind of important to know, don't you think? I think. I mean, again, it puts it in perspective. Yes, we need to have a comparison, but what does that comparison really mean? When someone says twice as good, 30 times better, 30% better, oh my God, that sounds like so amazing. But what does that really mean in the real world? Let's look at another camera. I think cameras everywhere. They're just growing out of the ground. This is the one that everyone's talking about. We'll take its little cover off. This is a Sony A7 Mark III, the direct competitor to the 6D. Right? Well, how does this compare to this camera? Well, the Sony pretty much trounces it all the way around. But I'm going to get back to that in a little bit to maybe bring it in perspective. So remember, this might be a much better camera. Is it the better value? I don't know. We'll talk about that. But first, we're going to move to peanut butter. Now, you need to know something about me. And if you are watching this from someplace other than the United States, you are probably thinking to yourself, what is this obsession that Americans have with peanut butter? I don't know if everyone has it, but I am completely addicted to peanut butter. I eat peanut butter every day. When I wake up in the morning, I'll take an apple and I'll cut it into quarters and put peanut butter on it, or I'll take a banana and I'll smear peanut butter all over it, and I have that with my cup of morning. It's my first breakfast of the day. I would say 6 to 7 days a week. I consider myself a peanut butter expert. You may not, but I do, because I'm making the video. So what kind of peanut butter do I usually use, being the peanut butter expert and connoisseur that I am? Well, usually I use house brand peanut butter because I buy it in these giant vats. What's this particular one of this time? This is Great Value. That's the Walmart brand peanut butter. If I was at a different store, I'd buy whatever their brand was. But this is what I have with me today. And I thought I would give you an assessment of this peanut butter and compare it to a brand name peanut butter. I just happened to get this at a hotel someplace. This is Smucker's peanut butter. So Smucker's is a brand name. They also make jam and jelly and stuff like that. And this would be considered a much more premium brand, certainly a lot more expensive. So, and to make this perfectly fair, I have two completely new plastic spoons that are unadulterated. So no one has touched these spoons except me and whoever put them in the box. So, generic Walmart peanut butter. The bouquet is fantastic. Appearance, excellent. Peanut buttery. Nutty in flavor. Somewhat sweet and sticky. A bit salty. Fabulous. Oh, I have a peanut butter on my lip. So, I would say this is a great peanut butter. Very good. And in fact, if I made a sandwich for my kids or a peanut butter toast for my kids, they would say, it's a great peanut butter. They wouldn't judge it at all. If I was at a restaurant someplace and I ordered a peanut butter sandwich, which I really don't do, but if I did do that and they made it with a peanut butter, I would think that it was great. Let's check out the Smuckers. Good peanut smell. Again, to make this test fair, I'm using a clean plastic spoon. Glossy. Creamy. Good bouquet. Slightly sweeter. A little saltier. Smoother texture. Definitely better. So I would say that this peanut butter is 30% better than this peanut butter. So does this mean I'm going to go out and spend the extra maybe 50% more to buy Smucker's peanut butter than generic peanut butter? Which would be pretty expensive because I'm going through this stuff like, I mean, this really is not that old of a jar. It just was opened fairly recently. No. Because this peanut butter tastes great. It's only when I stick the two completely together and think very carefully that I see the difference. But if it's just this peanut butter, it tastes fantastic to me. And the price differential is significant enough that I'm quite happy eating Walmart peanut butter. If you know health concerns about this, please don't tell me. I don't want to ruin my day. So where does this lead then to the comparison between the A7 Mark III and the 6D Mark II? Right here. I got them both, guys. Right? I know. Well, it's very simple. We're not really looking at an apples and orange comparison. So of course, if everything was completely equal, you were starting out getting your first camera, and you know everything was just this on a level playing field, obviously the Sony A7 Mark III is the better camera on every count, right? But what is the reality? Well, I actually got this brand new 6D Mark II for $1,300, not the suggested retail price of $2,000. How did I do that? I went on eBay. I bought a gray market camera, perfectly fine for me. As someone would say, minty fresh. It's all brand new, all good, right? If I look at my little book here, actually this is I'm trying to learn how to do WordPress. So this is actually my WordPress book, but this is what I happen to have with me. So that's why it's all marked up with the today's video in there. So if I went on eBay and I looked at some various lenses, and I just because I'm this is not exhaustive, so I looked at Sony branded lenses and Canon branded lenses. Now the reality is, I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, is you can get Canon lenses for much cheaper because there's just more of them out there. I mean, they've been making these lenses for decades versus a lot less with the Sony lenses. Plus there's competing other brands that are lowering the prices a bit on the Canon lenses. So some of these were new, some of these were used. It doesn't make much difference because a lens is a lens in many ways. So a Sony 50mm lens at f1.8, very reasonable at $199. However, a Canon 50 millimeter lens at 1.8, I found one for $94. It's much cheaper. A Sony 70 to 200 f4 telephoto lens, $1,200. Really not a bad price. However, I found a Canon 70 to 200 f4 for $571. Not bad. Here's a Sony 16. Oh no, where I was going to find. Oh, here's what I'm looking for. A 85 millimeter Sony 1.8, 85 millimeter, $669. Here's a Canon 85 millimeter f 1.8, $249. So now, if you talk about getting a much less expensive camera, because basically they're not selling, and you stack it up with some pretty decent lenses, I mean, those are the kind of lenses that you would use, that most people could use. You could certainly use them even professionally. You're talking about much, much, much cheaper. And it puts these two cameras in better perspective, doesn't it? When you think about this one, well, this is no longer 2K versus 2K. This is more like 2K versus 4K. I mean, you add a few lenses, you do a few things to it. It's a much different price point. And we have to look at that. And remember these magazines? Did you know which camera took these? I mean, maybe you're better than maybe you're better than I am. Did you know which ones took these? I don't know which camera took them. In the real world, those differences are not as great as they are made out to be on review channels. Yes, the dynamic range is not as good. Hey, the dynamic range on Canon cameras has never been as good for forever as long as I can think of it, right? But that never stopped people from using cameras like the 5D Mark III, because it's an awesome camera and its sum is greater than its parts. So what I'd like you to do, just like I'm going to do now, is take reviews, including mine, with a grain of salt. Because they are just information, just like DxO gives you information that people get crazy, love it or hate it. Reviews give you information. Commercials give you information. It's all geared to present something, but in reality, things, just like people, we are more similar than we are different. And if that makes you odd, join the club with me. Take care, everyone. If you get some time, please give my free podcast a listen. It's called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. My wife and I are on it. She's a PhD level clinical psychologist. I'm a medical doctor, psychiatrist, and we talk about stuff. You can find it on iTunes. It's kind of fun. I also have a personal writing blog, drmikekuna.com, drmikekuna.com. It's really just a writing experiment for me. Lately, I've been going through angst as I'm semi-retired now, and what do I do when I grow up kind of stuff. You want to learn the dark secrets of Dr. Mike? Feel free to read it. It's public. It's out there. Anyway, bye-bye.